morning, Julie.
You do the left ear up here. Thank you very much. Thanks. How are you, Stephen?
Good, thanks, Julie. Julie. Where's the audio coming from?
Well, John. You've got to sit on the same each. are not required to do at this stage. For your background reading members, we have included section 19 part 1 of the local electoral act, but taken as read at the stage of speaking to it. And undertaking its work, first thing that government is going to do is to choose an electoral system, bearing in mind that we are currently first past the post, and so that or SPV system. And a reminder still that whichever system we choose applies both to council and also to community boards. Second thing we need to look at is scenario boards and constituencies. We currently have one. And we'll take on that particular matter later in the agenda. We acknowledge that when we are undertaking our work, we must at all times provide effective representation through fairness and equity, looking at communities of interest, effective representation of our communities, and also fair representation. And we do that when considering the following factors: avoiding arrangements that may create barriers to participation, and that's in respect to familiarity with geographic areas, or making sure we don't split townships, etc. Not grouping together committees, should I say, that don't have common interests with each other, making sure that the population at all times has access to its members, so that's in terms of the level of representation, and also the elected members' ability to effectively represent those constituents that they are representing. In order to do this work properly, we will need to consider the ward boundary process, and as I noted in the paper on page 6, these blocks will be made available by January 2021. We will also consider whether community boards are appropriate to provide fair and effective representation for individuals and communities. We have one in our district at the moment. We have 4 electoral boards. And when we review this, we're not only looking at one board, but of course, 4 boards. The paper itself, Mr. Chair, identifies the next steps that we need to follow. Also, and also has the opportunity to gain greater understanding of some of the issues that are covered. So, happy to answer any procedural matters, Mr. Chair, with respect to the work that is doing, or indeed the attachment of section 19. Are there any questions?
Yeah, thanks for the overview. I guess there's a number of things that are interrelated as far as one system affects another, quite other reasonably dramatically. And so identifying the time frames for making each decision, are there some separate time frames that we're going to have to follow, or are we going to be able to sort of bundle all of our decisions together so they can be considered in the same manner?
There's 3 key areas that we need to focus on time frame wise. The first one, and it is the third paper on today's agenda, is that we are required to resolve the electoral system, and that is to be done by mid-September. The second one, we need to determine by mid-to-late November whether we are to see the narrow order constituency. And the third one is the next block reference for January 2021. And a lot of the work that we've done, we should undertake recommendation today is specifically deal with the decision on the electoral system.
Pending timetable flowchart on page 37, which outlines the milestones at the event. So it's quite a good reference for us to remind ourselves. So for those who are viewing this podcast, the specific dates, there is a council resolution required to change the electoral system by the 12th of September, and we are required by the 19th of September to publish the public notice. And equally, a resolution established in our constituency required by November 23rd. Any other questions on the process?
Mr. Chairman, I'm just wondering if I can just provide just some comment on those timelines again, and was going to talk about it in more detail, particularly in the paper on the electoral systems, but we do have the option of doing nothing at this stage. We don't have to make a resolution to change or to set the electoral system. We do have to insert a public notice by mid-September to advise our electors that they have the right to demand a poll. But that also leaves the door open for us to call for a poll no later than, I think, 21st of February in next year on the electoral system. So those are covered under the options on the third paper, and but particularly on page 136 of the agenda, which we will come to. I believe that is the case because the resolution of the council then becomes binding unless there is a poll of electors can still call for a poll. That's correct. The council can choose not to make a resolution on the electoral system, which is the first past the post versus STV system. If that is the case, then the existing system rolls over. So it simply means that we are maintaining the status quo of first past the post by not making a resolution at this stage.
Those that will all be received information, those statements as they are, and report number 2. Right, so thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is with respect to terms of reference for the subcommittee, and we have attached to this report the Electoral Commission best practice guidelines published in June 2020. The terms of reference identify the membership, identify the roles and responsibilities, and a required timeline for the work that is being undertaken with particular legislative reference. Top of page 42 2. Now, for the benefit of those who are on the live stream, it's a reminder to the representation review committee that the following matters must be taken into consideration. Firstly, a review of existing representation arrangements for elections, a review of community boards, requirement for effective representation, requirement for fair representation and other factors, the determination of membership for boards, determination of matters in relation to community boards, and consideration of requirement for membership and constituencies. And as I stated in my opening comments, it is a very scripted process under section 19 that we are required to follow. Happy to answer any questions on the Local Government Commission guideline booklet, which is on pages 46 through to 130 in the agenda, and we'll take that as read by
I think in a reference covers the work that needs to be done here. I just wonder is there scope within this committee in terms of reference to be able to include other areas of representation other than for the election as far as ensuring that there's broad community representation on and other matters, and noting the process that ECAN has recently gone through. Do those sorts of decisions fall under the scope of this committee as far as Maori representation, or is there something that can be dealt with separately in the representation?
I'm happy to take advice, but my understanding is that the additional I think you can update
That's my understanding. You can consider the issue of boards and address wide representation as part of the representation review by last election, or enable to proceed the way they wanted as legislative requirements. So if someone wanted to do something different, it would be a similar situation. We decide on a Māori board or not, and then post-election, not do an additional means of representation. Decide, the council will decide that itself outside the scope of the representation review. It's really going to consider with it's considered with the representation process.
So section 19 is descriptive to local boards.
But I think I understand what you're saying, what we're saying is a process which we are required to do by legislation. When that process is completed and an election system is decided through, as an outcome of that, council being made to another that looks on how our communities engage or how we engage with council. We cannot do the second part in isolation. They are connected, but one's got to follow the other. That's what we're on. Maybe impacts. But we might have to address so the community which I think is engagement with council.
Well, as council's already going through, Mr. Chair, council's already going through a separate process, John, in terms of community committee review. It's been undertaken, so that is not dependent on this process. It's been done separate to this process.
There are also a number of parallel and separate processes that have been undertaken at the moment. Water review, the recommendation of the RMA review committee was that the fewer authorities, all those happening at the same time, but we have to deal with today's given and legislation that's in front of us. The public into the election, we may or may not be in a different environment, but we have to work with today's structures and today's givens, regardless of what may or may not happen in the future. Are there any other questions on this report? No, would someone like to move that we receive the report? Sam and Eva, Jenny, all those in favour? Contrary, carried. Report number 3. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The third paper on our agenda today is the paper starting at page 132 in your agenda papers, which is to do with the choosing of an electoral system. I do just want to preface this with the encouragement that if you haven't already done so, do read the Local Government Commission guidelines that are appended to the papers today. And I will be referring to some sections there because they are actually very helpful in terms of understanding some of the timelines and responsibilities. The choosing of the next two papers, the choosing of an electoral system and the consideration of Māori wards, are officially not part of the representation review, but they must be undertaken, or at least these initial steps, prior to the representation review commencing. So that's the reason why we are considering these two items today. The first of those is to choose an electoral system, or to make a decision on what decision the council will make in relation to an electoral system, and having the option to change our electoral system at this stage or to signal that we wish to do so. There are two systems that may be used in local elections in New Zealand, and they are the first past the post, which we have used here traditionally for some time, and the single transferable vote system, which is not widely used. I think there is a list in some of the papers about the number of councils that do use that system. All of our neighbouring councils in the Canterbury region use the first past the post system, and it's actually 11 that use the STV, with a number of those being regional councils. And you may be familiar with the STV system too from the District Health Board elections. So we have a statutory duty to make a call at this stage, and the options for us, I'll just go through those first before coming back to the two systems, just to go over again what the options and the timeline. So on page 136, we set out that the council has the following choices. The first is that we can take no action. That is, that we don't make a formal resolution at this stage. So under A, if the council makes no decision on this matter, then first past the post will continue to be the electoral system for the 2022 election, unless 5% of the electors demand that a poll be held. The last date that a poll can be held to take effect for the 2022 election is 21st of May. The outcome of a poll is binding on council both for the 22 and 25 elections. And I would add to that that the council itself may also resolve to hold a poll. And we can do that no later than the 21st of February of next year. The second option is that we may resolve to confirm first past the post as the electoral system. We have to make that resolution no later than the 12th of September. And publicly notify that. Option 3 is that we could resolve to change the electoral system from first past the post to single transferable vote. Again, that must be resolved by the 12th of September. We also do have to notify the right for electors to demand a poll on the electoral system. And option 4, which is the one I referred to, is that the council itself could resolve to conduct a poll on the electoral system to be used for the 22 and 25 elections. Again, that would have to be made no later than the 21st of February, with a poll date no later than 21st of May next year. And then the outcome of that poll would apply for both the 22 and 25 elections. There are some comments on the costings there. Look, I don't think I need to go into the details of the pros and cons of the first past the post versus single transferable vote systems. You're probably reasonably well familiar with them, and there's a short summary there, along with some other documents that you've had the opportunity to read as we consider this matter. So, Mr. Chair, happy to.
Equals to able to poll to go to retain or change TV. Are equals still able to poll?
Yes, we must notify publicly the right for electors to demand a poll.
Much easier system to understand, and it's what most people are used to. And unfortunately, which experience with TV is the difficult elections, which are quite complicated and not really involve a number of people. So underlying exposure of forces, and so having simple voting systems is the situation helpful for us. But I do think it should be provided a fair outcome. Because it allows officials to be raised rather than just a majority of people getting the number one. The example that recently been given to the majority of people, majority of it's not necessarily the majority of people that vote. And under a previous election, we had got in Auckland, here's the voting being split reasonably evenly in preference between candidates, given the very low vote turnout. The Mayor of Auckland could be elected with as little as 5% people. Working as the system allows you to at least 50% of those who vote once you get the outcome before the result is declared. And they may well not change the outcome or say that, but where there is, if we can have an award system, where there is only going to be one, actually the award system where there may only be one person from the award, and the chances are an STV system is going to provide a better outcome when you're choosing one. If we go down a path where we have an award system where there is 3 or 4 people in the award, then I don't know that quite necessary because there's opportunities for others to get into the award. So hence the timing around this, I think it's sort of Joe's measure with how we choose the number of awards and the number of people within this award. I think the community is going to be content with sticking with the first past the post system, and so I'm not looking to necessarily change that now. And I wonder whether actually take a note that one of the the most values behind us that we need to make some decisions going forward. I'm not against sticking with the issue here, so again, it's just debated or not. Does anyone else have a line over that?
Thank you, Sam. I'd like to support you, Sam, and say I'm not sure going either way now. We need to consider all options. So we need to put it in that debate because although the decision does say that it's been a way for some time. I know there are a number of options that system on and Hamilton being one of them. I guess you've got here a moment. Done a fair representation. So I'm going to use the at the moment and support the discussion moving forward.
Very well aware that having an STV system might not be something that's taken right now because I don't know about 50 votes. But if that was a representation of what people want, then that's actually,
Sorry, Mr. Chair, just to point out that of the 78 councils in New Zealand, 67 currently use two parts of policy. They use STV. Certainly, in terms of the options, I don't think it would be good practice taking action. I think council should resolve to either burn the current system or resolve that. So that would be options C. And just a reminder on the top of page 134 of your agenda that we are required to make a decision today, one way or the other. That will be adopted by council no later than 12th of September, sorry. But by the 19th of September, we must clear a public notice, which identifies or advises the community of our decision, and secondly, identifies the fact that the community are able to demand whole to counterpart any decision that we made under the 5% of the community. We're required to sign up to that. So my advice is the recommendation is around option number 2, bearing in mind we're not able to regardless of what decision we make, there's still going to be public notice, and that public notice still gives the right for the community to demand public notice.
It could change for the subsequent election. The council resolved the whole reputation review. I agree that this is an unfortunate time. The first decision we make has a significant impact on the election that we've made in the other. I'm probably at the moment supporting first past the post for a number of reasons, but it would be easier if it was done in 12 months' time. Always the last decision, once we knew the number of councillors and the ward structure that we were proposing, because I think that would have an impact on which is the most effective electoral system. So it's unfortunate that central government's legislation requires us to make an important decision very early on in the process before it's actually able to reflect on what else we do. Even if we chose no action and wait for February before we decide to hold, well, February will only get the next updated for a month. We're unlikely to have settled on ward structure, the number of councillors. I think STV would be useful if we get to a small number of wards with a large number of councillors to allow people to get better than just first past the post as Councillor McKinnon noticed. So it could have changed things. And I could have been 4 out of 4 in the election, and still may have changed things. So we're at a point, unfortunately, we have to make a decision without the knowledge of the rest of the decisions we're going to make. I'm concerned, my concern about FPP is that it is confusing to a number of voters. And I think it's STV. Yes, thank you. STV puts off voters, and I in part put that the confusion over the health of the voting down to our low turnout. People, it's easy to vote for so many councillors. You pick a number of councillors in wards where you have to vote. And then you pick up the health board part of your voting paper, it's 27 people, and you've got a random in some order of people to put that down. So I'll get back to that. And it's still on their table, I'll get back to it after the election is closed. So, so I agree with Kenny that I'd rather see us make a decision today than no decision. So choosing to take no action is a decision. So that's where I sit. John and Jenny, any other comments?
I would like to recommend that we to use the feedback post of the
Is there a seconder?
I'll second that. And so, if you are going to propose to make a change from what you've done historically, you do so because you have either a swell of people in the nation and that you have picked data or through your intel that would indicate that it's wishing community. I'm also conscious of the fact that, and I agree with what Sam's saying, that it is unfortunate, and we'll see, Mr. Chair, that you make this decision, and at a later date, you're going to make a decision around wards, number of wards, number of councillors, or number of councillors at large, combinations now, which could have an impact of rethinking what you're thinking, and you sort of committed, so it's unfortunate, but you don't make the rules and you sort of pull from that, and we've got to make a decision. And I hope that, if you leave councils at large, across the district, that which is basically the done. I don't get the answer to that, but it is about confused, isn't it? We are for legislation, so using the information around my exposure.
I'm just reminding everybody that the resolution that we passed today will go on the council agenda for adoption on the 9th of September. So,
is there any other discussion on this before I put the resolution? If not, those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Contrary? Carried. Thank you. Report number 4, Mr. Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The fourth report is starting on page 158. Which is the report in relation to the consideration of establishing Māori wards or constituencies, in our case, Māori wards. So as the report sets out, the purpose of this report, again, is one of those preliminary steps prior to the formal representation review taking place. By way of background, the Act provides that Māori wards or constituencies, in the case of regional councils, may be established, and there are a number of provisions that are set out around those. So the establishment of a Māori ward may be achieved by either a resolution of the local authority or a favourable outcome of a poll of electors, and that poll can either be demanded by electors, and there is a public notification process that precedes that, or as a result of the local authority resolution. So the council itself can resolve to hold a poll on the establishment of Māori wards. And the timelines are set out in the report. We've made some notes just in terms of background, and it is just for background on page 159 that the matter was considered at the representation review last time around in 2016. There was no expressed desire at that stage from Te Tamutu Runanga as mana whenua for a change to the ward structure, and the Chief Executive may have some comments on the current position there as well. There is some information there drawn from 2018 census data on population. And there is quite a complex, not complex, but there is a formula that sets out the number of Māori, the number of members that would be elected in a Māori ward or constituency based on the proportion of the Māori electoral population. And the figures at the bottom of page 159 do indicate, and I have checked these with the Local Government Commission, do indicate that at present, under our current structure, the numbers do not meet the threshold for a member to be elected from a Māori ward. The guidance I've had from the Local Government Commission is that we would need to increase our total number of elected members to 14 under the current system for the numbers to reach the threshold. So that's by way of background around that the calculation formula. So again, there are a number of timeline implications in terms of the process to be followed. Those are set out on page 160 and 61, and that takes us through the Local Government Commission guidelines in terms of the opportunity for this council to either make a resolution or to look to resolve to hold a poll of electors. And the options again are effectively set out on page 162. And again, the choices are somewhat similar to the paper we've just considered. The first option is that we take no specific action at this time, in which case there is no requirement to notify the public of the right of 5% of electors to demand a poll. The second option is a council resolution, and that is that if the council resolves to introduce Māori representation, this must be done by the 23rd of November to stand in time for the 2022 election. If the council does make such a resolution, it must give public notice by the 30th of November of the right for electors to demand a poll. And if a demand for a poll is received by the 21st of February, then it must be held by the 21st of May. The council can also resolve to undertake a poll by the 21st of February, so along the same timeline. Option 3 is that the council has the option of resolving after the 23rd of November to establish a Māori ward and to run a poll in conjunction with the 2022 elections. So we have the option of actually running a poll alongside the election in 2022. That provides a longer time frame for the council to give consideration and for the community to give consideration for that matter. In such instance, the effect of a poll would come into effect from the 2025 election. Option 3 is that we may resolve that no Māori ward be established. And if that is the case, there is no specific requirement to notify the right of 5% of electors to demand a poll. And again, the local government guidelines, which are on page 66 in your agenda papers, have been drawn on for guidance in terms of the recommendations that are before us today. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Went through the paper, and outlined the numbers and the formula and provides a basis for a change. Not that there couldn't be one anyway, but the numbers fall out. The view from the executive team was not to pursue a potential report, although they did request some further information and feedback to report back to us more formally on that. And so I wonder, given the fact that there's a little bit more time to make this decision, and we haven't set our timetable up for the next meeting, there's not the opportunity for us to play making the decision today. We might be able to receive that feedback from as well as initial conversations that we have had with them in the way we formally receive from the before we
Thanks, speaking in support of those comments, I think that is the prudent position for the subcommittee. We don't have to, as the report suggests, resolve to deal with this matter until 23 November. Next item I'm going to speak on the agenda is next schedule. I'm going to suggest that we meet again in October. And I think it would be prudent to hold this matter over until that meeting to allow the time to attend the opportunity to respond to this advice of the council.
Thank you. I just wonder, Sam, if you have to hold that for a moment. If you move that, we can't actually do the debate on the issue. So with that in mind, for anybody else who'd like to make a comment before we go that way.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Sam. I just like to support what the Chair shared during the meeting with alongside of that, I believe we need view from the wider district and Wataawaka, living within the district that don't whakapapa to their views is the sports. Because alongside one of the bigger ones called so I support the idea of resolving the for later date and see there's wider representation or views from the total amount of Māori living within the district.
Could you give me an idea, Shane, of how we might achieve within these timeframes, being supervised, that makes it later into that consultation with the wider Māori community?
I think we have a number of platforms now, including digital formats that we can actually advertise and see that. There's a bunch of that and ask alongside with advice from the Lumo.
Just a quick comment that also in the run-up to this year's general election, there's no opportunity to move from the general role to the rolling role, or vice versa. That doesn't happen again until 2024. So it may be if there are other opportunities available to people the same 2025 local elections, that may actually when it comes free again. Because obviously, unfortunately, that is always an opportunity. So that might change then.
And I think what this subcommittee is moving along this software approach and try to consider all the options and obviously want all of that can be represented. But when you look at the numbers and look at the representation, it's hard to mount an argument that there is a need for a separate Maori ward. And I think we'll agree. Also, it appears that there's a very good opportunity for a representation around the table to be achieved by the normal electoral system. So we do get that. We just do not, as a community, have the numbers of the very well. Particularly, this is an ability for people to stand in any of the wards and be elected and represent those views. That's pretty much my view. Do you think of the numbers? Can you get the numbers?
Thank you. Yes, I probably agree somewhat with John on that. I think, Shane, your election in the Northern Ward goes to show that you're able to produce representation elected under our current structure. I believe that I think it is sensible to delay this decision. We don't need to make it today. It will take years. Resolution of the table, the reasoning being with the consultation of the parents.
I suppose, Mr. Chair, I could ask you, look, I support that. I could describe it tongue in cheek as a software approach. But you're not, where is the additional information going to come from? What information going forward to change your view? But I'm quite confident that the process started and it seemed that we have at least given us seriousness.
I would second the motion of the issue of the table, seeking the information, do the consultation. Then they proceed the motion, there is no further debate. Those in favour, yes, aye. Motion carried. Thank you. Now,
Just by way of conclusion here, I propose that if the subcommittee meets here on this equivalent day in October and the again in December, and that we commence monthly meetings starting early February when fish blocks will be available. Some of the issues that we need to talk about, so in preparation for the October meeting, we will circulate the fish blocks that we used in the last review, which is 2015. We'll provide some details of population change so that you can start and get your thinking processes going in terms of the water system, the same number or less, the district at large, and also some of the other things we need to think about are the numbers of elected members and levels of representation as well. So with the support of the subcommittee, staff will prepare a meeting schedule Mr. Chair for say the equivalent date in October and somewhere around the first week in December. Obviously the 21 schedule will be subject to the assessment process. Thank you. Any further comments? Any other comments? Anyone?
Mr. Chair, yeah, please clarify that the you suggesting the equivalent days is it 23rd? Has been paid for the workshop days previous to the morning, paid him some availability.
So we could do what we're trying to
Well, it doesn't have to be a restart. It's some industry, we need to start currently the morning before available, we would make it.
Wednesdays are pretty planning through. Well, we could do the 28th of October,
which would satisfy the requirement for resolution at council by December.
so we say 28th of October.
Yes.
Okay, keep rolling forward to December.
We ordered rest on the second, if we need to order rest. We'll try to record Wednesday, Fridays with council.
Friday the 4th, that is.
Well, for the centre meeting, then an 8:30 start on the second.
Which I'm resting it is from the 7th, and there'll be a week of the so prior to that.
Okay.
We do it on the night before
Yes.
or the LTV return.
December the 9th is.
Yep.
Yeah, we can do 8:30 on November. That's great. December the 9th. I don't expect there will be much to do with December other than information requests because it's going to be or it's customary law and there are no other statutory requirements. Posed on the committee and you won't get the useful information until later. So October the 28th and circulator making place with them. 15 days through the business. Thank you for your attendance and meeting closed. Thank you, Mr. Chair.